GM. Might have to run that back. I just got a master of it. But how we doing, farmer?
Yo, Bunzi, things are good. Look, we're probably not in a market where people feel good, but it's just the state of, the highs and the lows. And I think those who stick around reap the rewards of that. And from a builder's perspective, ecosystem perspective, growing attention perspective, I think we're in a pretty damn good spot. Look, I think we're just in a state where all of these risk asset alts have just been crushed and continue to do so. But if you just look at Bitcoin price, yeah, it looks pretty damn good still. Like Bitcoin dominance is still running higher. And it's funny because I noticed the Monad intern account actually tweeted this out. It's just a bull market starts when Bitcoin dominance is at its lowest. And we certainly haven't had that happen. So what Monad Intern is trying to say is we didn't even have a bull run yet. So 2025, late 2025, early 2026, is that when the bull market actually hits and everyone starts caring again and FOMOing in as the paradigm shifts? I don't necessarily know, but I'm here on the Bitcoin side still day after day for a reason, and I'm happy with the progress, but ultimately, I think a lot of new ecosystems are actually struggling right now. You have Abstract, which I think had $12 million in TVL, doing a very normie based approach of Web3, a Web3 ecosystem built for normies, and 12 mil in TVL. That's massively, I would say, disappointing in the grand scheme of things. So then you have Pengu as the meme coin token start to go down, drags everything downwards with it. And then more recently, you have Barachain, which was the talk of the town through the most amount of lore-like parties over the last 2 or 3 years. They've been building things like vape to earn, jerk to earn, massive revolutions in degeneracy.
What, bro? You telling me I could be earning?
There's a lot of ways you can earn doing that, but we're not going to get into those ways of monetization. Yeah, Barachain is actually an interesting one. They pre-launched a token IOU, like a pre-market TG. I think their actual TG date is tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, or the day after tomorrow, or maybe it's next week. I don't actually have a date set as a reminder, but yeah, look, they have a pretty interesting ecosystem, but even so, they're still in this bit of a rut. Barachain, for those of you listening, or started off as a rebasing NFT, and then from the hype post, they ended up raising around at a pretty lofty valuation. At that point in time, they kept raising more money and building out this proof of liquidity model, which is just rebase everything, restake everything, LSTs on everything, accessible liquidity on everything, which is it's pretty novel on its own. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes based on the centralized exchanges. It seems like it's costing people 5 to 10% to keep their shorts open, which isn't necessarily the most bullish thing you want to see, but it just shows you like the state of the market.
Yeah, dude. I need to figure out more about the whole bear chain thing. I don't even know. I've heard people talk about it, but I haven't dug into it at all. And I feel like I missed a pretty good airdrop.
I think that's a that's a good part. I think if you connected your wallet, your socials, and I think I saw like most recently that if you've tweeted enough about them, that you basically get more airdrop tokens, which is an interesting way to think about driving an ecosystem. On the flip side, you have Mega ETH, which is actually doing something very interesting and novel. It started off with their Echo round, which priced around at a very reasonable, modest valuation, which got, I would say, I wouldn't say retail investors, but the general public of angels and so forth in the ecosystem in at the same round as they had. And then you basically had them announce that they're doing a 10K collection, which is going to be a soulbound token, basically doing another raise from the community to bootstrap users' attention, also at a very modest valuation. So there's so many ways to attract attention into your ecosystem. And to my knowledge, and to a lot of people's kind of review, they were pretty well thought about. They were well calculated in their approach to building out a high quality ecosystem. If you just look at ETH, like no one really wants to build on the base layer. It's expensive, it's dying, ETH going down, and so forth. And Mega ETH trying to say, hey, look, like you can forget about all that. You can have a performant EVM environment. It's going to be fast EVM, and we're going to launch pretty quickly. And that the ability for them to launch before Monad launches gives them like a leg up. Like builders want to launch products today rather than in 6 months. Time is money, but it's also dev time, people to pay, and more time spent actually not testing out a thesis or a vertical. That's part of the reason why you had Out and Fun launch on ICP, because it's there, it's accessible, it's ready. And look, I'm not saying either is a bad strategy for teams. I think both have their own merit. But yeah, for the builders, I get it. People want to build on something that's here today, and sometimes they don't really have like patience or capital in a lot of ways to keep burning on devs without actually launching their token awareness and a functional product to get a feedback loop. Bunzi, you can probably relate to this. Like having a feedback loop makes building things fun, right? Like when you can actually see people using it, there's a way to get more positive iteration loops.
Definitely. No, it's super rare. Like most projects don't even get to that stage. Like a majority of things, like you work on it, but that's the best route is just like ripping off the band-aid, getting it out there and then iterating. But we got Raf up here. He's got some pretty cool updates about ephemera and just what he's doing. But just want to say what's up. How you
Good.
doing today?
Yo, what's up? Yeah, I was just talking to on Discord and he told me about the space and these are the Bitcoin builders, so why not? Yeah, happy to be here. There was a new release of Pwrd, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. But there's also something nice I haven't announced yet is if you go to my repo, like Rafjaf, go to my GitHub repository, Rafjaf, and then slash Pwrd API. It's like a nice little TypeScript library so you can interact with the Ordinals server with the Ordinals JSON API server. I hired someone to help me build out and do some JavaScript stuff. My hope is that people use this so then can more easily use Ord as a server for their tools and whatever they need.
So,
Um,
Raf, let's back it up a little bit because there's a lot of builders, but there's a lot of users here in the audience. So, what
yeah.
is it's ephemera? Is that what it's
Oh
called?
no, this is something else. Okay, I'm doing many things at
All
once.
right, all right, all right.
There's many threads I'm following. I always get confused in which when I open my terminal in which repo I am. But yeah, I'm with Bunzi. I've been a user of Bunzi's Laser Eyes or Omnisat's Laser Eyes. It's a really nice library for the users here. If you connect to a website, it's the way you connect your wallet, and it provides for us developers. It provides a nice little package where I instantly have all the different wallet connections I could think of, and I don't have to worry about that. Shout out to Laser Eyes. And yeah, I've been using that in the ephemera project that I've been doing together with Michael and Aaron. It's every 2 weeks there's an auction. You bid for a date, and then we inscribe this nice little ephemera kit. And it's ongoing. It literally runs every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks you have the chance to bid for a date. Definitely check it out. It's ephemera.gallery. And we're finally able to integrate Laser Eyes there as well after we've gone back and forth with Bunzi, trying to tweak it, make it work with our very custom infrastructure. It also helped us think a bit more cleanly about our stuff. But yeah, that's ephemera and that's Laser Eyes.
So, just explain like I'm five here. Is this a marketplace or is this kind of an auction house or?
Yeah, the underlying tech is an auction house, and I haven't open sourced that yet because it's very built around the very specifics around the ephemera auction. But the underlying thing is an auction house where you can have ascending bids instead of a Dutch auction. So an English auction type style thing.
Got it. And I guess we have seen auctions on Bitcoin happen, right? I remember when Ordals came out, there was quite a lot of teams that were building art house type projects, dApps, you name it. And then even Magic Eden, I believe, has had auctions done in the past. So I guess how is this different from that? Or is this the differentiator here is that it's all built on chain in Ord fully native rather than having some sort of like off-chain logic like Magic Eden would do, or
Yeah, it's a good question. On Magic Eden, you have the auction functionality, which is where you have to lock things up into a multi-sig. So basically, if you bid, you have to put the amount you want to bid for. You don't even know what you want to bid for in advance. You have to lock it up, and then you bid with the stuff that is in the multi-sig, which kind of locks up your liquidity and takes a while to get out of that multi-sig. With ephemera, it's just it works differently in that it doesn't take your bid into until the final bid is finalized. So you basically bid with PSBTs, which means your kind of liquidity is preserved. You can always cancel your bid. You never, the money never leaves your wallet until the auction ends. And then
so
the auction
what
pulls in the money.
so Raf, what would happen if I moved that UTXO? Would my bid effectively be canceled, or
Yes, that's exactly there's of course some downsides to this. If you then take your wallet and then move the UTXO either by purpose or by accident, that bid gets automatically canceled. And part of the logic is checking whether whether the underlying UTXO has moved that you're bidding with. I'm trying to get Xverse to implement coin control or UTXO selection where you can freeze. So coin control is a feature in many like wallets where you can freeze specific UTXOs. And then if Expert supported that, you could be like, okay, I'm going to freeze this UTXO because I'm currently bidding for it and I don't want to accidentally spend it. But normally the auction, like most of the auction activity happens maybe in an hour before the auction closes. It's not so yeah, in that hour you basically don't do any other transactions and then you can be safe. But like I would prefer if Xverse had this coin control stuff, so you could like freeze your UTXO and then bid with those instead. But we're not there yet.
I
So
like
yeah,
it. I want to know what your thoughts are on this being a possibility to expand to something like a Dutch auction style. I think a lot of people, for better and for worse, enjoyed having this game theory mechanism where, look, if I bid one BTC, then all I'm getting is just more assets at the reference price, and then
yeah,
having the balance itself go to me. The Node Monks auction was highly centralized, and it required custody and trusts that Rock and others would send this back. But
yeah.
is there any way to leverage this in that similar way where people can drop like a 1K collection and let the market really decide what it's worth based on bids and so forth, beyond just doing this for, I would say, single asset auctions?
Yeah, so yeah, the Dutch auction style is like lowering bids, which is normally it already works on chain, like the normal Dutch auction for a single thing. You just keep on lowering it. Like the nice thing, like this, the whole auction platform was more built for the English auction style, so ascending bid stuff. So that's what it was built around. But so it's a different logic. Like ascending bids is much more difficult to implement, but the ascending bid stuff is nice because it's very interactive. If I see someone post something for 10 Bitcoin, I'm like, okay, cool. So I have to wait until the price goes down, and then when the price that I want to buy that happens, it's just like one interaction, then it's gone. Whereas with a rising bid, like you start very low, there's people, it attracts much more attention. People come be like, oh look, it's only 10,000 sats. I'll throw a bit in there. And then you have much more interactivity and it's much more fun to watch an English auction than it is to watch a Dutch auction. So fundamentally, this is a different style of auction. But I don't know if I would or could build like Dutch auction, like descending Dutch auction for a 1K in the node monk style in a more trustless way. You probably could, but it's a different model.
Got it. No, that sounds awesome from like a launchpad auction perspective, just to keep things on chain and native to Ord. And
Yeah.
obviously, this is a project that you said yourself, Aaron, and one more person. You said
Yeah, and Michael.
Michael.
Yeah, he
Uh,
designed all the kits. Like you can go check it out. It's like ephemera.gallery.
Yeah, you
Check
wanna
out.
pin it to the top?
How do I pin something to a space?
You grab it, take it out of your phone, and then stick it and, I can find one. Just in the
Wait,
tweet, there's 3 dots, and then
three
telling the
dots.
dev how to dev. But, no, it's been
Three
cool.
dots.
On the top right
Working with
corner of the
Michael
tweet, there's three dots. You click that, and way at the top of it
Oh,
will
okay.
say
So I need
there's
to
a
find the
space you're in.
tweet,
Yep.
basically. Oh,
Way
damn.
at the
Okay,
top,
fine.
once that triple dot opens up, is a thing that says pin to the top.
Yeah, but talking about that feedback loop earlier, like with Hath and even Ufi, another like really big core contributor to Laser Eyes, like working with Raf and Michael, like getting this in there has been amazing. Raf had the really cool idea of getting Sparrow Wallet integrated into Laser Eyes too, and just like working with teams that know Ord very intimately has been super helpful to mature the library. So it's been, yeah, super sick feedback loop and just really cool ideas of utilizing Sparrow too. Like weren't really even thinking of that until I mentioned it. And so yeah, it's super cool like getting other developers, and it's stressful at times because a lot of teams are asking for stuff, but it's been really helpful. Hath continues to crush it. He's also working on sending runes. Now the library includes the ability to send runes, which a lot of people have been requesting, which is super cool. So yeah, it's been dope. Do you figure out how to pin that?
No, so I can only pin my own tweets. Is that correct?
I don't know. No, you can pin others. I can dig through. I can find one. But
I'll pin something else. Like I have another place where I actually use laser eyes. So this is
oh,
now more
lit.
on the laser eyes side. But this is for my BIP. So I go to my tweet, I press the three dots, and then
The name of the
And
space
then
you're talking on should be at the top. You just click that.
share seed phrase.
I don't. So I'm on the
Yeah.
tweet I want to share. I see the tweet that I want to share, and then I press
Yeah.
the three
It's
dots.
actually not the three dots. It's like sharing a tweet. You click
Oh,
as if you were going to
Oh,
share it.
speed
there it is. Yeah,
racer.
it's on this
Oh
page.
yeah, you have to
Wow.
use the little
I've
bob
been
thing.
following your trade advice forever, bro. No wonder. Fuck.
And I
Okay,
just
No.
shared
so
like multiple tweets. I'm just going off the
So
top of
I
my head.
shared, so now I shared like where I actually, so since we're talking about laser eyes now, I'll share the ephemera gallery tweet once I find it. But since Bunzi was talking about the laser eyes, so I have this very small like website called bip322.rs. If people do not know, bip322 is the standard you use when you log into a website and you sign a message. The algorithm and the signing algorithm behind that is defined in a BIP called with the number 322, and I implemented it in Rust. So it's a small little Rust library. And I compiled it to WASM so it runs in the browser. And now with Laser Eyes, I integrated Laser Eyes as well. It was super easy. I get all the kind of Laser Eyes wallets, and then people can now also sign a message directly. So they can also sign custom messages, which I always wanted to do. Sometimes I want to sign a custom message, or if somebody is prove that you own a puppet, and then you can be like, yeah, here's my address, and they're like, okay, prove that you own that address. You can like, they can send you like, okay, sign this message with that address to prove that you own that puppet, and then you can go to this website and then you can sign it, and that's how you can prove it. But yeah, like I always wanted a way to like sign custom messages, and yeah, this website does it for you and uses laser eyes. So yeah, check it out. It's a super simple
Yeah.
website. But
You're able to do the sparrow too with that too, which was super cool.
the Sparrow just gives you instructions on how to sign with Sparrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Sparrow is like not a browser extension, it's like a desktop wallet, but you can do similar things when you like use Sparrow. You can sign stuff, so it just pops up and gives you instructions on how to sign something with Sparrow. But I do on ephemera.gallery, I want to like have an actual like PSPT signing flow with Sparrow, where you copy and paste kind of the raw PSPTs between the desktop app and the web app. But that's a bit down the road.
Yeah. We're actually getting closer with that too, like building out the modal flow for like it to work. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been epic just to see people using it and like how like just mature it can get, because like when we first released it, it was very much just TypeScript, and now it's vanilla JavaScript, so anyone can use it. We want to get like Vue in there too, but I want to hear more about the Ord TypeScript stuff
Oh
because
yeah.
that is dope.
Should I just tweet about it now so that I have a tweet?
Yeah, there, damn, look at him go,
Oh my
dude.
god.
The dev is deving.
I want to. You can't post links in Twitter. Twitter sucks. Like, why the fuck did they depromote links? I always have to write ordinals.com, write it out.
Yeah, that is one.
You
It's
can
just
actually
go
do
to
a
my.
link not in your main tweet. So you can
Whoa,
type
whoa,
and
take
then
this with a grain of salt.
yeah, and then you comment on it and you can put the link there and then it'll let you post it.
Yeah, okay, wait.
Yeah, and then just view private key.
But it's how do I like it's check out my GitHub. Go to github.com/rafchaff and you'll see it under Ord API. Yeah.
Yeah, just the TLDR for other builders
Yeah,
that
I'll
are.
tweet later, but I don't feel like tweeting and
Yeah.
speaking at the same time. I'm not a good multitasker. But yeah, the TypeScript library is just there for convenience. So you can either be like, oh, I only want the types. I want to implement my own client and fetching logic. Or you can be like, okay, give me the client and the types. And then you just do Pwrd client, and then it has a bunch of methods, basically a mirror of the normal JSON API. And it's very convenient to interact with it. You just give it a URL of the ordinal server. Right now, all the testnet instances, so testnet, signet, testnet 4, are open, so you can connect to those. We don't have an open mainnet instance yet. If people ask nicely, maybe I'll just spin up one and give it to people to crash. But yeah, you can now easily. I want people to use the API more and get feedback if the API is good or bad. So that's why I created this nice little helper TypeScript, JavaScript library, so it's easy for people to do.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I think.
So yeah, guys, try it out and let me know. Give me feedback on anything. Literally, like the whole structure can be reworked because I'm not a TypeScript expert. I do not know how to lay out such projects. So if you see mistakes, just let me know. I used Zod. I don't know if people know what Zod is, but yeah, now we're getting too technical.
Harry, have you seen this or used it at all?
I don't know. I gotta ask the AI if it knows what it is.
Yeah, Harry retired from developing. He just has AI interns swarming his code bases.
Nice.
TypeScript's
But
real good for the AIs though, because it throws like lint errors, so it knows how to fix it automatically. So yeah, TypeScript's great.
Yeah.
Raf, how many people are contributing to Pwrd and I guess the Runes repo these days, or is it still just primarily you?
The main repo, it's the usual suspects, but there's some regular. I think let me check the GitHub, but there's FO sometimes opens issues and PRs, Crypto9. Then there was some other contributors. I don't know, Email Condrea. I'm just looking at the last commits. Me, of course, Casey. Yeah, Casey do most of the stuff, but there's some Gmart, of course. There's one engineer from Best in Slot who wanted to add a new recursive endpoint, which recently merged the RTX endpoint. But yeah, it's basically the usual suspects, which
Have you
is nice.
seen there to be a growing contribution, or are there more people contributing, trying to contribute, or trying to provide suggestions than you have? I mean, if you can just give us some alpha on, like,
I mean, I
I
think
guess.
most of the work, or it is the rules of the game, and most of the rules have been written. And the point of these rules is that they're pretty stable. So now most of the development happens around it. It's got people building stuff like Odin Swap, people building tools. So the game has been set, the rules have been set, and now people build around it. And my job as maintainer is to set some small accents, make some small changes, maybe add a new recursive endpoint, maybe connect runes and ordinals, which we did a little bit with the RUTXO endpoint. Set like very light changes, but don't like not radically change so people get disorientated. You want like a stable foundation to build on. Overall, I think compared to beginning of 2023, like 2 years ago, it's definitely less commits and less issues and less people. But this is, I think, a healthy thing. It's much better to have this at this
And
time.
remind me again, because sometimes I think Ord and Runes are indexed together, but is that the case?
Yeah, Pwrd is the name of the binary. So the binary is the executable, the actual thing you run, and it does many things. But its main thing is it's an indexer for sats or ordinals, for inscriptions, and for runes. And then it can run a server, which then gives you information about what is in the index. The server can either return HTML, so you can look at it, like our shitty little HTML that you see on ordinals.com, or it can return a JSON, which can then be used by developers to create more rich experiences. I think most explorers that you see use Pwrd in the background as an indexer, and then they build their nice front ends around it. Pwrd is everywhere in the background running, and then people build these rich experiences around it. So it sits everywhere in the background, lurking, doing its job, slaving away, and then people build like nice experiences around it.
And I guess, has there been any thought to adding more features to Runes, or would you say the time is 90-10 or 95-5 at this point?
I
Asking you because everyone I think is hoping that you're going to save our rune specs here.
On like ordinals and inscriptions, it's pretty mature rule set. There's not many new stuff other than maybe small recursive endpoints, but like the ordinals and inscriptions feature set is pretty complete. I'd say like 95%. On the rune side, there's some what did Casey say the other day? The hidden retarded giant of the turbo flag. It's at this point, it's a kind of a soft rug because we came up with it in the flurry of activity before the halvening, where we literally had to punch out this protocol in 2 months of we were crazy like coding. We had all these weird ideas and we were like, oh, let's put in this turbo flag so that people can do something with it.
And the turbo flag allows us to trade instantly, right? Like
The turbo flag can do whatever you imagine it. It can do whatever you want it to do. It'll like instantly pump all the market caps to 1 billion. So that's what
well,
the turbo flag.
it's a good thing that all of the Runes Classics mints have turbo flag on them.
So yeah, people have it on, and we said, so if you have this on, you 100% trust us with whatever we come up, that it might turbo nuke your rune if we activate it. Like turbo can go both ways.
Oh my god. You have the
Let's
kill
go.
switch. Turbo on means kill switch on. Oh my god.
But like we don't really know what to do because most of the schemes we came up with they promote MEV, which is not good. But at the same time, my opinion about MEV is going to happen anyways. And is the runes MEV really going to be that bad? It's just very complicated. Everything we thought of was the initial. We were like, oh, MEV, maybe we should just like chill and figure out something else. And activating it now would be very chaotic, and we haven't really thought about what to do with the turbo
So
flag.
I got I guess two questions.
Mhm.
You know, right now all of these runes have a fixed supply, and if you think about the use case for potential stables, as any way to have runes be mintable, right? Like I think that's, you know, so say USDCE or T enters Bitcoin, they don't want to pre-mine trillions
Yeah.
of potential supply and then have, you know, the market say, oh, they got access to this and they can just dump on
Yeah.
us if they please. But is there any way to add something like that to make runes more flexible in the last maybe I think stablecoins
Yeah.
are probably like the only real use case of this, because every other token, even if you had pseudo equity, for example,
Hmm.
you want there to be an unlimited amount of
Yeah.
tokens and therefore mintable. But thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is a great question because I've actually been thinking about this, which I totally forgot about. And I think the word you're looking for is reissuance. Is there a way to reissue runes and expand the supply of them? And the way I think about it is that reissuance, same for stablecoins. Let's take stablecoins, for example. Like, who tells you that a stablecoin is actually given a random contract address? Who tells you that is also where a token is called USDC? Who tells you that this is actually USDC? It's the providers of the exchanges and the people who accept it. Stablecoins are inherently something that is like outside of what a chain can verify. So people outside of the chain have to come to consensus about this address is the actual true USDC and the USDT. And then wallets and front ends show you the correct contract address for that. So it's inherently something that happens outside of the system. So with runes, you could do a similar thing where, for example, you have an inscription, and then under that inscription, you create a rune. And then that rune represents the first issuance of, let's say, 1 billion of USDT. And then the USD, the Tether Treasury, takes a bunch of more like money, and then they want to issue a new rune. They issue the new rune under the same parent, and then all the wallets always are like, if a new rune under this parent appears, then this will be part of the same kind of rune and we'll treat it as fungible within these two runes. And then, yeah, wallets and front ends can show this and can see that a new batch has been issued. And this way you can see every time Tether or the Tether Treasury, for example, issues new runes, they issue it under the same parent. The rune names will be different, but front ends can recognize that and be like, okay, this rune name is under this parent. They must be grouped together, and then show it as USDT. This
Of
is like,
course, it becomes trickier if, for example, bringing $5 in, then the operator then has to pay a Bitcoin transaction fee
yeah, and
to.
issuance stocks are not just so the way issuance would work, you would do these in batches. So you wouldn't like issue new Tether. Tether doesn't print.
But
Like
let's
it's
let
announced every time Tether Treasury issues new Tether. It's an on-chain thing. Everyone is, oh shit, the Tether Treasury has issued a billion more. This is where you get these whale alerts or whatever on Twitter. And I think this is the way. Like you wouldn't issue new tokens for $5. You would make them in batches, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I'm just trying to think about all of the edge cases, such as wrapped assets, for example, that would be like mintable. So, like on Solana, every time you bring a single pups over through a bridge, it mints a new token on Solana and it adds it and so forth. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about like edge cases beyond that. Say someone wanted to bring a single ETH token over to Bitcoin, right?
Okay. These are separate things. So first, this is like reissuance, and now you're talking about bridging. Bridging is much more complicated and has a lot more edge cases. But I think you could come up with something. So I've been thinking about this has to be something that we as a community have to come to consensus to, and then I would write up some, I don't know, spec or something where if runes are grouped under the same parent, we show it as associated runes or something. And then for like really like high value stuff like stable coins, wallets would have to Tether would be like, hey, yeah, this is my parent. Tether would of course always have to retain control over that parent. And then because Tether has control over that parent, similarly to Tether having control over the contract on Ethereum or
Right.
Solana, they can then
Yeah,
reissue
right.
stuff.
It's like the token authority or whatever. Yeah,
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
So the security model is you got to keep your parent safe, and then you trust if under the parent there's a new rune issued, you'd be like, okay, this is the same. I will treat these two runes as fungible, and then wallets and exchanges and whatever will treat these two separate runes as interchangeable and as the same. But yeah, it requires some social consensus and stuff on top, and like a proper spec and kind of way for people to recognize these. But I think it's possible, and if you guys are interested in it, I can figure out and write something up. Yeah.
I am most definitely interested in it, and I think a lot of people that are building stablecoins on L1 would also be very keen to provide feedback and some guidance on that, as I think it is quite interesting. The other question that I had, and this is the last one from me, is how are you thinking about MEV on Bitcoin? Ordinal's kind of already enabled it.
Hmm.
Um, my take is like MEV is generally net positive for a blockchain in itself for survival reasons and for fee reasons. Obviously, isn't great for the end user, but it is a byproduct of having kind of a successful environment where fees go where fees should. Want to pick your brain a little bit on like how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, for like Mev, I mean, it already exists. For example, if you mint a rune, and it's a very contested mint, uh, the order of the transactions matter. If there's only 1,000 mints, you have to be in the first 1,000 transactions that mint. So miners could be like, oh, I'm going to take this and give it to myself. I'm going to mint this myself. And they could reorder transactions in the block and take that. Like in the block, now normally, like Mev happens through ordering of transactions. And normally, Bitcoin transactions are ordered by the relative fee rate that they have. But I'm unsure about this, but I'm pretty sure that this is not a consensus rule. So you can order transactions inside of the block any way you wish and please. So yeah, you already have this kind of very low level, low key MEV where miners could get that mint in before you because they have control over the block building. So my opinion on MEV is that it's here already. Bitcoin doesn't the structure of Bitcoin just doesn't allow the same crazy amount of MEV that Ethereum has because L1 Bitcoin is just not as rich in features and stuff. So I'm not personally too concerned about it, but this is just like my naive opinion. There's like hardcore Bitcoiners who are like super concerned about it. But I think Casey is also a little bit more concerned about it than me. My opinion is, it's here already. I don't think it's a huge problem. It's good to have a healthy fee market. Let there be a little bit of MEV. The MEV that exists is not going to be so crazy, anyways. That's my uneducated opinion.
And Casey is very much against Mav, right? Like I think that's really his biggest concern as to introducing new features, to my knowledge, right?
Yeah, Casey and I, we have a lot of power to introduce crazy features where we could Because what does ordinals and inscriptions and runes provide? It provides this richness and texture that didn't exist before. Before Bitcoin was fucking stupid in a sense, it couldn't do very much. Like there was not very much you could interpret. Now you can interpret all these different things on top of Bitcoin. So we now provide basically the little texture that MEV searchers can then use to find it. I think it's still minimal and not a problem, and I don't see how it could become a structural real problem with anything at the moment. Of course, if we do something really crazy, maybe, but I haven't thought too deeply about what we could do and at which point the thing we introduce would be crazy MEV. Yeah.
Love it. No, thanks, Ref, for all those takes.
Yeah, sure. Happy to.
Bunty, I appreciate you bringing Raf up here. That's a Chad move on your part.
Yeah, good move. He got me at the right moment. When
Good
feeling
move,
social.
Bunzy, dude. We don't hear that too often on the show, so let's fucking go. Run it, clip it, run it back. No, it's yeah, appreciate having you up, man. And yeah, it's been cool with working on beat blocks as well. Found this Opus file and I was like, Raf, yo, what do you think about getting this into Ord? And I thought he's, oh, I got to show it to Casey. I was like, oh no, he's gonna pick it apart. But we were able to get a more compressed file type for music into Ord as well. So I'm curious, Raf, like how many teams do reach out to you and Casey? I would assume it was a lot in the beginning. And because the limitations of Ord and Bitcoin in general are quite large, but like you guys are very open and you guys are working on this. And I know like stability and testing is always key. But yeah, how many teams are reaching out for like innovation ideas on Ord?
Yeah, I'll answer the question. Just one more thing on the Opus file and the general like types. You can inscribe basically anything you want, like any data type that exists, like you can inscribe. You literally in the envelope, you set a content type and then you just put in the binary data. So you can inscribe anything you want. When we say we support Opus, it's just that we allow in the wallets, we recognize the extension and we allow we can easily inscribe it, but like you can always hack around it and basically inscribe anything you want. And it will also be shown on the content endpoint if you go to it, if the browser supports it. So it is very, like, it's very open. You don't have to wait for us for specific file types. If it exists, you can already inscribe it. It's just that if we put it in the front end and put it into the right places, it will maybe render a bit nicely and will be more easily to inscribe.
All right. So .pornhub is those will work.
Is that a file type?
No, I don't know. I'm being retarded, but no,
But
no, that's cool though. But the adoption though does help for like
yeah, it does
wallets.
help.
Yeah.
If you have file types that you want more officially supported, just open an issue, open a PR or something. That's always the easiest way to do it. And yeah, and then this goes to the point of like how many teams are reaching out. There's always some people who want to add stuff. They open issues is always a good place. PRs is even a better place because PRs is you actually not only have a brain fart, but you actually had to implement something. So you have to actually think about it a bit more, which usually filters out stuff like if you actually have to think about it and put it into code. And yeah, we have people reaching out a bunch. We had, for example, the Starknet people. They wanted us to implement zero knowledge proofs within runes, but we were like, yo, this is like complicated technology and like just try to implement it on Bitcoin and then Rune gets it for free. We don't really see the point in implementing this crazy like cryptography in the Runes protocol, which is off chain, and then only to have Bitcoin maybe implemented later, and then we have to support both of these things. So like some ideas are just like too much of a lift, like stuff like that is just like too much, but like other smaller stuff is easy to do. And yeah, if you have ideas, always reach out. As I said, issues and PRs are the best. You can also DM me, but I'm not very good at checking my DMs, but every now and then I do.
Yeah, man can't even pin a post.
Yeah, I have no idea how this shit works.
No, the reason
And
I bring that up though is it's like,
and it's funny that our bags are in this man's hands if he can't pin a post. Huh?
dude, yeah. So basically, no, but the reason I bring that up is because like the way that you guys have designed the protocol is simplistic and mindful way for maintaining for a lot of reasons. And I guess for smaller things, bringing it up, but teams are trying to innovate on Ord, and I feel like a lot of people just run into walls and oh, it's just not possible. And I do think like the PR approach of allowing them to take time to think about it, because just DMing and being like, yo, can you add this is no, go through the process of what it would look like to
Yeah,
implement it, open a PR. And that's what I found with Laser Eyes is like having people open issues makes them actually think about it because they're like, oh shit, I
exactly.
have to go write it on a public forum. But it really does help the whole process and allows them to think through it. Even myself, like I find myself doing it now too. So I don't know. I just want to encourage it and like share that experience from my end is like it is super helpful and refined because and they're open to adding stuff. Like it's a very much community driven thing, but just with the maintainers like ensuring that these things won't break any other pieces that have been put in place.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, writing is thinking clearly. And then if you code it up, you're thinking even more clearly. Like it's just a more strict form of thinking. So yeah, I always encourage people to write stuff down. And just open a PR, even if it's shitty. Like either we'll shoot it down or we'll try to improve on it. But there's no downside to
yeah,
trying. Yeah.
he'll just screenshot it, pin it to every space now that he knows how to do it. Look at this fucking terrible PR. No, but yeah, no, appreciate you coming up, and it's been super helpful getting the feedback loop with Laser Eyes, and it's super cool seeing projects and developers like yourself implement it because it's helped us a lot to get this thing in a more mature state and more robust. So yeah, but yeah, anyone else have any questions or comments for
Yeah,
or for
I
Raph
just
before he goes
pinned
back
like
to
the
maintaining the
ephemera
org?
stuff we talked in the beginning. If you guys
Oh,
want, it's
lit.
just the latest tweet from the ephemera bot. We have to tweet more, but like when you click on that, you can go. There's a link on the thing, and you can check out the website. You can also check out the collection. You can filter stuff. These nice little 3D rendered kits. Like you actually click on the kit, and then you can actually see the 3D rendered file. This is all on chain. It also has sound and stuff. Like you can play around with it. It's nice. And basically, it's a testing ground for me to actually use the protocol, build out like tech in the background, and then I try to open source stuff as soon as it makes sense. For example, the BIP322 stuff was like born out of that. Like I had to implement a lot of people logging in, so I implemented this BIP322, pulled it out, and made it an open source crate. And now we have the ORD API stuff, which I also need for ephemera.gallery. I pulled it out, made it a small TypeScript library, and now it exists like that. So it's like small things that like by me actually trying stuff out, like actually building on ORD and around ORD, helps me create
Yeah,
stuff.
it's like the saying, eat your own dog food of this. I think that's amazing because like now, like end to end, you're like running in and from the development side of people building these things, now you're walking through it yourself, which that makes me, I don't know, that makes a lot of sense. What are some of the key findings that you've found that interacting from that position?
Yeah, the first thing I found out was how simple Xverse is and these wallets. I thought Xverse was able to build a PSPT for me, but that's not the case. You actually have to build a PSPT yourself and then pass it to Xverse, and they only sign it. So I had a very simplistic view of how these, or I thought the wallets did more, but the wallets do nothing. You have to collect the users' UTXOs, you have to build the PSPTs, and then you literally just hand it to the wallet to sign. So that was like one of the first learnings I had. It was like, oh damn, okay, the wallets actually don't do that much. And then I started to understand all the things that people have to implement in the background. And of course, with ORD, like the address endpoint really helps here because you give it an address, it gives you all the UTXOs, and then you can build PSPTs from that. So yeah, it really furthered my understanding of what the Bitcoin builders need and what they're struggling with.
No, that's dope. Anyone else? Harry, how are your bots going? You got any cool new tools I can lose some money with? Or Matt, Speed Racer, Yeezy, you popped
No,
up.
actually, if Harry's around, I wish he was actually here. So we met Raph in New York like probably a little bit over a year ago in his early days of Ord stuff. But so it wasn't much to talk about, and it was very early days in the arch building times too. But what you just described, Raph, is like the complexities of being able to generate these Bitcoin transactions on behalf of a user to sign with some sort of also potentially more complex off-chain computation that can bring more complicated applications into the picture without necessarily doing things off of Bitcoin. That's essentially what the Arch VM is really all about. And maybe Harry can explain a little bit more technically. It makes a little bit more sense. I'm not as technically sophisticated as you builders, but to my knowledge, like that's really the pure value here is that you can move at layer two speeds on the base layer because we're using the ORD indexing client and we're using our Arch VM to generate these more native Bitcoin transactions while also like having reorg resistance by implementing some rollback mechanism so that in the event some of these more edge cases that you're mentioning where people RBF their own UTXOs and cancel out the PSBT that's generated, you have these more fluid dynamic applications that can be built on top of Word.
Yeah. How does Arch work? I don't know. I see Arch Network here. I guess it's sponsored by Arch Network. What's the TLDR on Arch? Is like a layer 2 with a multisig? Is that's kind of it?
I mean, it is its own side chain, so you can do more of this complicated off-chain computation. But generally speaking, it's more base layer in nature where you have as a signer of that PSBT, the VM itself is constructing these PSBTs for you. Like you just said, the wallets don't do that. There needs to be a VM that actually can construct these Bitcoin transactions. And then in some cases, a Frost and Roast multisig signs the other half of that PSBT as the network on behalf of these users. So depending
Nice.
on who you are, if you're the taker in a swap, you don't necessarily have to trust Arch. You're only trusting Bitcoin PSBTs. And if you're like a liquidity provider, of course, you have to take on and make more trade-offs and trust assumptions. But trying to just bring more programmability at the base layer by constructing these smart contract like interactions with an element of like more complexability and flexibility as well from the builder side. But Harry or Josh or anybody, if you wanted to jump in, because they're building on Arch currently.
Am I Rogan? Harry, you talking?
No, I think everything's quiet.
Awkward. No, yeah. Harry's bots are coding, but
No,
but
it was a
yeah,
good explanation. Thanks, thanks, Matt. I think Matt was talking. Cool
shit.
that you guys have like Frost and stuff.
Yeah, Frost is actually super interesting.
It's crazy
I
that you're
was
already
like,
using it. Like I thought it was still very experimental, but
yeah,
it's crazy.
where
This is the point of degen money or degen capital. They like to take risks, and then builders can build more risky stuff, and then they get users. So it's a very very valuable cohort of people who throw their money into risky new things. Because then, as I think Farmer Joe said in the beginning, you want to build these feedback loops and get users, get feedback, and then build on. Like you can't build without feedback loops. That's one of the most important things I also learned from Casey, like in low level programming. Like you code something and you build a test instantly with it, so you can test what you're building, and then you get this feedback loop of, oh, my test is failing, I have to improve something, and then you improve until your test passes, and you have this really nice feedback loop. And then these feedback loops scale up. You need feedback loop not only on the low level code, you need it on the whole application, and then not only application, you need it on the whole network. So it's like a very scalable thing to think about.
yeah, one thing I've never known actually, Raf, is because that was one conversation you had is like working with Casey, I started testing way more. That stuck to me, and I need to implement that a lot more because I'm still just I don't test nearly enough. But what were you doing before Ord? And I'm just curious because it's a super interesting kind of development cycle to change, or I don't know, just curious what you were doing before Ord.
I guess I was a student, but I was not a very good one. I was slacking. And I was doing some open source stuff. So I was doing a bunch in Go, in Golang. I was doing some stuff on the Lightning Network, like very, my first open source stuff was on the Lightning Network side and in Golang. But then I found Casey and did Rust, and he showed me the Rust way, which is better. I prefer Rust now. But yeah.
Oh, yo, Yeez or Yeezy. We got Kanye with us.
Oh, okay, cool. So I got a question for Raf. Is there a way for us to? I don't know. Are you guys open? Of course, like we gotta open the thinking. Is there a way for us to etch a rune that's privately tradable, for example, within a specific domain? Um, just to make sure that the people that trade it are within a specific, like only on Magic Eden. Um, is that a possibility? Do you think this is something that's worth exploring at some point to support maybe private trading of certain assets within the ecosystem?
I don't private trading. I don't really know what that means. If you can always just trade with people. If you hold the asset, you only sell it to someone you want to sell it to. But if you have Arch Network, for example, Arch Network could be like, hey, you can only trade on the Arch Network if you're part of it, and will only sign for transactions that trade between people in the private group. So I think that's more like a layer 2 side chain thing that can be enforced through that. You can enforce stuff like that through, if we ever get them, through like covenants. Covenants allow you to define how assets flow in advance, especially like recursive covenants. Covenants can be built through either opcat or through opctv, and that would allow you to predefine how and where specific runes or inscriptions or whatever can flow. That's definitely possible. Yeah. But I think inside the runes, I don't see a way to do it. No easy way. It's an open protocol, and we want to be permissionless. So it would be counter to that core argument. I'm not against it, but that would be something that has to be enforced by an outside system, not by the runes indexer.
Cool, because like it aligns nicely with the pre-mine concept, right? So you can pre-mine then airdrop.
Mhm.
I was just wondering, maybe it's worth having a conversation
Yeah, that's
around that.
definitely possible with covenant. So you could like airdrop into a covenant, and the covenant only whitelisted people are part of the covenant, and then they can only trade between each other inside of the covenant. So yeah, that's definitely possible. But yeah, that's how I'm thinking about it.
And tying it to a specific domain, you can only trade this asset on Magic Eden because you don't want it to hit the public market
Oh, you mean a
for
domain, like an
everyone.
actual domain?
Right.
The domain name system is outside of Bitcoin and outside of, or like we do not control it, so we cannot verify anything that happens on it. So domains are outside of the. It's nothing Bitcoin can verify or know about. So we can't verify or know about it. Like we have no like the system. It's outside of the system basically. When you sell a car with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin cannot verify that you've actually given the car away. It's something that's outside of the system. And similar with domains, like it's a thing that's outside of the system, so Bit cannot verify that.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Raf.
Yeah, sure.
Appreciate it.
Dope. If anyone has any other, open up the floor, start winding down the show. Raph, appreciate you coming on. And yeah, ephemera. I don't know if I even pronounce it right.
You should, yeah, you should. I think you should try to bid for one. They're cheap,
Bro.
$10 or
Yeah. So
something.
there's Dutch auction. Is there any
It's an English auction, so
is there any
you bid.
degen auction up only technology?
It's an English auction, so it literally is up only. That's
Dude,
the
what
point
about a
of it.
Spanish auction? What is
I don't know.
where are
Maybe-
the origins of these things? That's interesting.
I don't
Dutch
know.
auction, Dutch ovens, and
The
English.
Dutch were one of the first innovators in financial markets. The first stock exchange was in Amsterdam.
Bro, I'm a
And the
quarter
English has
Dutch.
the English roads. They have common law. The English have a big influence on how the modern
Whoa,
financial
bro.
system works. Like all
Raph
of that
I
just
is
guess
big
derived
braining.
the
from
first
English and the
Ponzi
Dutch.
schemes must have been the English ones if they're ascending, isn't it?
Dude, damn, that's interesting. I'm a quarter Dutch. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's your genes that make you build good decent technology.
Oh, that's wild though. That's interesting. What about English muffins?
Oof, I
No,
don't know what that is.
a switch. What's up?
Yeah, how's it going? Yeah, man, just a question for Raf. Just regarding, say, some of the UTXO stuff you mentioned when you were building, you realised how much of a pain in the arse some of these wallets can be when interacting with. So just wondering whether Pwrd could help, certainly recursively, pull some of these UTXO stuff into an inscription so we can actually build UTs within an inscription. Yeah, I think that would be super handy. So like the our address output endpoint, do you reckon that will be something you can implement?
And then while he answers, if you want to drop your mic is rugged, or was that just me on my end?
No, his mic was off a little bit, but I
Yeah.
understood the question. So yeah, UTXO building is all about the difficult part is the coin selection part, or the actually selecting the UTXOs. Like Pwrd already provides when you connect to a website and you're like, okay, here's this wallet, this is my address, and then Pwrd through the address endpoint gives you all the UTXOs, and then the difficult part is just selecting the right UTXOs and putting them in the PSBT. And so you can already do that with Pwrd. Like Pwrd, I use Pwrd for exactly that purpose, to build UTXOs. I don't like the R.
Yeah, so with that, so I'm doing the same thing. So I'm using the R UTXO endpoint to pull the IDs. But you're having to make like all those recursive calls back to that endpoint. Whereas if you just had our address and you could pull all the UTXOs and filter them through the endpoint, that would be super handy.
Yeah, you don't need a recursive endpoint for that. Like we already have the address endpoint, so like it gives you the outputs. Like you can already do that. Like putting it in a recursive one doesn't really give you more.
It does if you're building like on chain. So this stuff within an
You
inscription.
want to have an inscription that does that for you. Right now we have the RUTXO one with the RTX, which you can't really use as smoothly. As for the R address, I'm still thinking about that because the address, so specifically the index for the addresses is very big, and making people rely on that for recursive endpoints is a big burden. I want to wait a little bit until people get familiar with running the address index and are like have it in their infrastructure before I open up that recursive endpoint. But I think it's an open PR or an open issue. But I'm still waiting that more users and exchanges and infrastructure people actually run the address index.
Awesome, great. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, Chad, do you have any questions? You popped up. Want to make sure got anything going on?
No, I'm good, man. I'm actually driving. I
Hey,
was just
Bunzi,
listening
is
to
it
you
just me,
guys.
or do you guys wonder what Raf's hair routine is?
Hair routine. It is just you, but now I'm super curious. No, dude, not at all. Just super weird. But Raph, what's your hair?
I every time after I shower, I like collect the tears of my enemies and then I sprinkle it on, and that's how I get the nice hair.
Damn, fucking jeez, dude. Everyone with their rune bags. He just has so many tiers now. That's why it's looking so amazing. Everyone just Bro, I guess last question. Are you going to Paris or Denver?
Paris, maybe I will decide one day before. Right now, I'm chilling in Berlin, but
Oh, bro, you gotta come then.
yeah, I know. I will decide spontaneously. And
We're gonna get a baguette and
Denver,
yeah.
I don't know. Denver, I don't know. Last time I was there last year, I don't like Denver. It was so dry and so high.
What do
Like
you do?
I had a headache the whole time.
Last Denver was lit, dude.
Yeah, Ordinals takeover. I heard this year there's an official part of the East Denver conference is Ordinals. Is that true?
Yeah, there's
They're bending the knee.
oh dude, yeah, all the DAI token maxis, all the ETH maxis are just they're gonna come with all their DeFi stable coins, so you better fix or draft. No, I don't know.
Yeah,
Actually, is
last
there?
time it triggered a bull run from
It
all the
did.
ETH heads. So
True.
if history repeats, they're gonna be starting to buy these JPEGs again after
Yeah.
seeing how much progress we've had on them and how bullish the charts look over the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I am curious. Oh, go ahead.
The lower the price goes, the less risky the asset.
Yeah. So no, but is Ordinal like a part? I'm curious because I know there's a lot of side events, but that is interesting. If
No, I think ETH Denver doesn't have very much, or if anything at all.
oh,
I thought they had a small section, but maybe
I
I
think you're
misheard
right.
you.
I think you're right. I think they have a panel. I think they have their first Bitcoin panel.
Or maybe a panel.
They have quite a few panels. There's the Bitcoin, I think it's called the Summit, which is within the actual main conference. Yeah, main conference place. But usually there's quite a lot of DeFi and L2 scaling builders that do side events. There's last year was a massive push on Bitcoin L2s like Bob, and there was like a dozen others basically on stage talking about scaling. Probably going to be a similar type of fanfare. Obviously, last year it was like a new hot topic, and everyone went crazy for it, and we had all these things popping up left, right, and center. So this year it's not necessarily new. I think it's nice to see Bitcoin as a speaking point in conferences like ETH. So I think it's net positive nonetheless.
What do you say we wrap this up? Unless Matt Farmer, you got anything else?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, still bullish overall on everything. As Ref said, there's just always constantly progress and process. I think it's going to be less an exciting year or an amazing like Q6 of 2024. But yeah, I think we just got to keep going. A lot of people have left, obviously, and that's fine if they were speculators and so forth. But none of the builders have left. Everyone who committed to building a project or a product on Bitcoin is still very much alive and thriving. So yeah, I think that's the most positive outcome here that we could ask for, despite some of these assets start to creep creep downwards. And as Raf said, the lower they go, the less risky they get. If it's down 90%, it can only go down 10 more percent, right?
Exactly.
All right, Bunzi, let's wrap it up.
So bidding more. Yeah, here's a generation of some music that's 100% on chain, thanks to Opus Files to take us out. But appreciate you, Raf, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Awesome.